Hi, this is Sherry Porter. Welcome to Painting with Fashion Hues. Today's project is going to be a hummingbird with a trumpet vine with a rock background. This particular piece is a light up. We start out by base coating. You're going to use the cream base coat first. You'll be able to remember which order this is done in because the cream will help to identify the areas that you might have missed when you were base coating. The cream really stands out well against the white, as does the white stand out against the cream when you apply your second base coat. Okay, we're going to do a little bit different from the standard antiquing with this. Usually with the Fashion Hues you'll use the S18 brown. We're actually going to work with S23 Mediterranean. I really like the earthy tone of this color. Now what we're going to do though is we're going to add some gold powder to this. Just take a small amount and place it into the color that you've poured out into your palette. Then you'll take and give it a couple drops of blending media. Whenever you're working with the gold or the silver powder, you're going to want to put about 3 or 4 drops with it, see what feels right. Now you can mix your color. Mix it in the gold. Gold will have a tendency to separate, but it's going to look very, very fun when you wipe it back. Okay, we're going to get with the antiquing process. You dip in to the nice little golden mixture that we've created with the Mediterranean. Spread the paint out completely. Spread it out as far as you possibly can. When you're wiping back the paint, you're going to want to press to set the pigment and absorb the oil, and then you wipe to highlight and to remove the excess paint from the surface. We've placed a little bit of blending media in with the color. It was grabbing a little too much. If that's the case, just put a couple more drops of the blending media on your piece. If you find that the paint is not adhering to the piece, it's kind of sliding off, you'll want to use less blending media. You'll want to take your time with the antiquing. Be sure and use a stiff bristle brush to do this. I like ox hair. You'll want, because you'll need this piece. This piece is rich with texture and detail, and it helps to have the firm bristle brush to get down into the crevices. You'll want to make sure and pull the paint up from the crevices as well. You don't want to leave any oily spots on the piece. Okay, you're going to want to make sure to antique the bottom of the piece as well. Make sure there's no oil deep in the crevices. If you have any oil with the crevices, you'll simply pick your brush up and mop it up out of the crevices and wipe that back off. In our next step, we're going to work with making the light spots lighter, making some white rocks, and just overall highlighting the piece. This is done by folding up one of our blue white back cloths. We use antiquing solution very sparingly. You'll want to get just a little bit of product. Usually you wouldn't work it over top of your piece just in case it ain't. A bit of antiquing solution on our cloth. We're going to rub it together vigorously. We're going to rub it together and let the product spread out and dissipate a little bit. Okay, now on our hummingbird, the wings are going to be very light. Completed antiquing the piece, we're going to want to remove some of the paint, lighten areas, highlight. We use antiquing solution for that. Put a little onto your white back cloth, your blue paper towel in this case. Work it in. There's certain areas that we want to be just about white. Two of those areas are the wings, the inside of the wing. This will be the inside of the wing. Miss Billy. You can see the antiquing solution will basically take the paint right down to base coat, actually. It will lighten the piece considerably. Okay. Get that nice and light. I would like to highlight the flowers. Don't want them white, but I would like them much lighter than they are right now. In the base coating process, you will want to make sure and test your piece that it is completely sealed. You'll do that by brushing on the antiquing solution. It has lots of uses. You'll use it throughout the piece, actually, as will the antiquing cloth. You want to hold on to all of your cloths and brushes. Keep a brush dedicated to a certain color while you're working with it, because you'll go back and correct some areas, as I am right here with this. I wiped back too much, and I'm going to even it out a little bit. Pat and wipe. Okay. Now for the rock area, I'm going to lightly highlight. I'm going, as you see, with the direction of the rock, so they do have a specific direction, and you'll have better results going with the strata of the rock. Paint this white and this white. There you go. Now some of our rocks are going to be actually close to white. Select a few of those now. Once you've used the antiquing solution to highlight some of the areas and lighten the inside of the wing, the belly of the hummingbird and the flowers, I've lightened all of those. I'm placing some of our gold powder in my palette. I did use that in the Mediterranean to antique the whole piece, giving gold fleck in the paint. But now I'm going to actually rub some of the gold paint, now I'm actually going to rub some of the gold powder right onto the rocks. I like the look it gives. Now you don't want to breathe this gold in. You can do silver as well. I choose to just use gold on this piece. It may look a little harsh, but we're actually going to do some blending with it, and it'll look nice. It'll be barely noticeable, really. You see I'm pushing my finger into the paint, kind of loading my finger, if you will. I'm sure that you may have been taught different ways of working with metallic rubs. This is the way I was taught. There we go. There's gold in the hills. Okay, now, once I have my gold on, and you see I did not put it on the bird. I'm rubbing it into the rocks the best I can. A little on the flowers is fine, it'll come off later. Okay, I'm going to use the same soiled cloth that I used earlier. I'm going to blend that in a little bit. Soften the gold. Following the strata once again. Okay. There you go. Okay, now that we've rubbed the gold over all the rock surface and lightened, what we're going to do now, I've put in some S33 charcoal and some S18 brown. We're going to do random rocks. Just brush them on. Brush your color on. Truly, you can do several at a time. But you're just going to put random rocks. Do some in the charcoal. Fold your cloth into your nice, comfortable pad. Pat the color to set the pigment and absorb the oil. Give it a little wipe to highlight. Now, if the paint isn't wiping back as much as you like, and you know you've got enough blending media, simply find a cleaner section of cloth and you'll get a lighter result when you wipe it back. And then continue on with the S18 brown, random rocks. Brushing color in, brushing in from the item next to it. Brush in, and you will avoid brushing color onto the item next to the area that you're working. I pat to set my pigment and absorb the oil. Do a wipe to highlight as dark or as light as I would like to have it. Of course, we're dealing with Mother Nature here. We get a lot of leeway. I think we'll go with a very large brown rock. We're actually going to have 4 distinctive colors and tones. We've got the S18 brown, we've got the original Mediterranean that we antiqued it with. And then we will have a cloth that I have applied antiquing solution to. And we're going to use that antiquing solution to lighten the piece. It will look like we have white rocks. Of course, very random with this. Okay, once you've finished antiquing the rocks, giving them a few different colors with your brown and charcoal, and wiping it back with the antiquing solution to make some of the rocks white, you'll end up with something that looks like this. Now we'll move forward to the flowers. You'll see that with a very lightly loaded brush, you can go a long, long way with the S11 yellow, which is the color that I chose for the insides of the flowers. You'll want to pull from the throat of the flower out. Make sure to cover that center. If you get a little where it doesn't belong, that's okay. We basically work from the inside out. You're going to find that we press and wipe, blending outward. I'm pressing to the flowers are actually a combination of 3 different colors. I've got magenta, S22, I've got S15 red, and I also have S12 orange. I tip into a little bit of the orange, bring in some red, and bring in some magenta. Just kind of stir it around. Actually, when you wipe it back, you'll see evidence of all 3 colors, but we've created a new color. I'm spreading the paint out. The red family of colors are rather weak in that if you wipe them back with much vigor, they're going to be too light for what we're going for on this effect. So what we do is we spread our paint out. Of course, I can't stress enough that we wipe the paint away from the item next to it. You want to get right down next to the rocks. You don't have to worry about leaving a lot of the yellow center. Sorry about showing the bottom. Okay. I've already wiped the centers of these back a little bit. We're not going to do a lot of wiping back. What we have to do is just set the pigment and give a little bit of highlight. You don't want to leave any oil on the piece. And a little highlight at the base. And now one of the best tools of the trade, a Q-tip. Just kind of pinch it down so it gets flat. And then come back in and wipe the centers with a Q-tip. That'll help to blend. Blend the yellow into the rest of the colors. And I did wipe out most of the paint from the brush. I'm just going to dry brush a little bit to even this out. We don't want a lot of that yellow to show from the throat of the trumpet vine. And of course that's where all the nectar is. That's the hummingbird's gold. Okay, and there we have the flower portion of the trumpet vine. And now for the hummingbird portion, the green portion of the hummingbird, I've used 3 parts of the S4 jade, and then we are using the regular green, 1 part, and 1 part gold. Mix your color. The gold doesn't look like it wants to mix in, but it surely will. Okay. Brush this on sparingly. You don't want to glob it on, it'd be very difficult to remove. Putting the green color right up next to the area next to it. As you can see, a very small amount of paint goes a long, long way. Now I am taking this color halfway into the tail feathers. In doing my homework for referencing the colors for a hummingbird, there are some amazing hummingbirds all over the world. I went with a ruby-throated hummingbird, very common to most areas of the United States. I've made sure that all my space is covered. I'm going to come back and just pat a gentle pat and a slight rub. There's the main portion of the hummingbird. Alright, continuing on with the hummingbird, we're using S17 black for the bottom of the tail feathers. I'm brushing this on, I'm not real heavy. Not real heavy-handed with it, and beyond dry brushing. Of course, I need to get it down into the crevices. His feet are also going to be painted with the same. You see, I just brushed a little bit of the black onto the top of the tail feathers. And blend that in. Let's give it a nice little blend. Pat his feet once. A couple degrees of dark on the tips of the wings. Place some of the same S17 black, of course, on the bottom of the wings. This will work for a beautiful shading as well. I'm just going to load a very small amount onto my brush and pat the paint on. Go back with a clean section of cloth. Just make sure it's nice and even at the top. I'm just going to set it down and blend it in. I'm going to do the same, creating a shadow under this wing, under the top section of this wing as well. I'm going to do an eraser type motion. I'm going to set it down. I'm just going to pull back and forth with the color. It gives a nice little even tone. Okay, I made a mess right there. I'm going to moisten a Q-tip. You can use antiquing solution. I use the handiest thing close, and that is saliva. Just a little tiny bit. I know it's yucky, but it does the job. We used to affectionately refer to it as spit on a stick. There we go. And now for the red. For the throat portion of the ruby-throated hummingbird, I'm doing a combination, primarily burgundy with just a touch of red. We need it to stand out from the trumpet line and yet stay true to the color. Most of the references I used had basically a straight cut off at the neckline for the paint, or for the color rather. It goes right up to the halfway point of the eye. I'm going to let that sit on for a minute. Sometimes when you look at your piece from a different angle, you're going to find that you missed a section. It's always a good idea to change your angle of light while you're working on the piece. Now, of course, I'm going to find a clean section of cloth and just lightly press down. Lightly press and lift, and that's all I'm going to do with that, because if we mess around with the red too much, it's going to turn pink. So we'll leave that as it is. The beak will be black. Okay, at the point before you spray, actually I did the stems over here in a nice green. The beak was done in the black, the S17 black. And now I'm looking at my piece over. Before I spray it, I see where I've smeared some color over here. So all you have to do is take either the cloth that you used or a brush, the same brush that you used for that exact color. Brush it over, wipe it off, and you've just erased the accidental smudge. You can do that with any of your colors. Okay, this piece is ready to spray. I did put black acrylic for the hummingbird's eye. Usually if I was doing a lot of water-based color on top of the oils, I would absolutely spray it first and then move into my water-based colors. But due to the fact that it was just a very small amount of acrylic, I'm going to go ahead and put it on before I spray. Of course, he'll get a little highlight after he's dried, and some brush-on gloss to his eye. We will do a brush-on metallic to the inside of the piece. That will be blueberry ice. Blueberry ice to the center, representing the sky on the inside, and it'll be finished.